All right, look. There's still a lot of confusion about the Moorish National and Divine Movement. As to what it's about. I've been in this thing a long time, and my loved ones still asking me, what is your ideology? What is it about? So it's a lot of basics that I gotta cover. We take for granted. The conscious path and the path to knowing and studying and whatnot, and years go by and you've been studying, we take for granted that everybody ain't really keeping up with what you finding out and discovering and realizing. So it's a lot of learning and unlearning that I went through the process of. So it's a lot of basics that I gotta recover, such as the whole principle of nationality and what it is, the state that we are claiming. And another thing, the Declaration of Nationality as a Moor. Your Declaration of Nationality is not based on any religious belief, unless you just dealing with, unless you want ancestor worship and shit like that, and that's your answer. Your religious belief, is the allegiance with our ancestors and following along the chronology of the time chronology of where we've been and where we at. And we can't keep jumping, like there ain't no gaps in history. A lot of us, we like to jump the different points in the history as to where we gravitate to. But dealing with the Moorish history is the direct link, missing link, as far as how we've gotten to this point right before being enslaved. The falling from power. When you was in power, you was known worldwide as the Moors. Now, like I said, there's some basics that I want to recover. Like, the transatlantic slave trade was a hoax, basically. And then that's a debate about to ensue right then and there. But these are basics that conscious Moors are aware of. We don't really deal with that no more. We're trying to deal with the issues at hand, and we already recovered our history and lies that has been told. Like, we've recovered the real history. So that's why how we move in the present time might be confusing to you who do not know the real history. A lot of my loved ones, most so-called black people, have a false narrative version of history. And it's to distract you from who you are. Like, this is a major realization. This is major information. And like, I struggled on where to start. So we need to start with studying as much as you can Lemuria and Atlantis, and knowing that there's a lot of prerequisite knowledge you gotta have, like the original people on the planet. It's like melanated people. You have man and you have mankind. There's a lot of maybe overwhelming facts. This is common sense to me, but it's overwhelming to the great majority of a lot of people. When we trying to say that information is simple, this is simple, these are basic, this is basic. Like, arguing that we're not supposed to be paying taxes, and like, the false narrative version of history will displace you from the homeland. I don't know how else to tell you that the images of people who are depicted as Native Americans, these are fraudulent images of taking pictures of Mongolians and Siberians and calling them the Native Americans causes confusion. When the true indigenous Americans look like me, the whole thing was the dominion of the Moors. This is an extension of a major dominion. North, South, and Central America is an extension of a major Moorish dominion that extends all across the Great Atlantis, and North, South, Central America is a greater extension of Northwest Africa. Get that in your mind and things should start to make sense to you. North, South, and Central America is the greater extension of Northwest Africa, extending across the Great Atlantic Ocean. Because the Great Atlantic Ocean was caused by an earthquake where these land masses were connected at first. That's why I'm talking about getting into Atlantis and Lemuria in more ancient times. And declaring your nationality as a Moor is aligning yourself with all those ancestors who were. See, the traverse of the Moors is like we were here in the Americas before the Atlantic Ocean and the great earthquake that caused it. Moors migrated from America to Africa, or what is known as Africa. Basically saying that the same Moors who built the pyramids in Egypt are the same Moors who built the pyramids in America. If you heard, you got Commission artifacts in the Grand Canyon. There's a lot of information that is not mainstream. It's kept underground. But the underground information is the main information for you to know. But it's not the main information that's being put out. And information that's being put out is suggestive to you. Like your mind will work in a hierarchy of prioritization. And if all the information news outlets that you tune into, the information that is priority for them to tell you, your mind will assume or suggest that this is the most important thing to know. But the most important things to know, they make it like it's just a point of interest, like individual interest. Something you might be interested in, but they not gonna put it out there as basic information that everybody needs to know. And the Moorish Divine National Movement, everything that's pertaining to Moorish history is basic information that everybody needs to know. It's supposed to know. Like, this is the information of the founders of civilization. They're keeping you away from this so they can paint a false narrative. Like, they've been doing this shit for centuries, trying to hide obvious people, and so they can paint themselves as the founders of civilization. So I'm trying to this is a basic point of fact of America. North, South, and Central America is a greater extension of Northwest Africa. That's what it is. These places have been separated, but they were never separate. You understand? And most the Moors, North African Moors, still knew the routes and the channels to come to Americas, whereas the Europeans Like, the seafaring Moors are known as the seafaring Moors. These are, you had the knowledge of the routes to come to America at any time, where to the European, America was known as the New World because you had no access of coming over here. The routes were secret. You were not welcome. This was a greater extension. This was an extension of a great empire to be protected. The people over here lived in paradise. It was like how we visit the Bahamas and whatnot now. Imagine that. Imagine we ruling the world from Andalusia, which is Spain now, and that was the world's superpower. The mentality that you need to get out of is, see, on TV and in society, like a lot of people take the position of a lowly subject because you don't know who you are, and you don't know the half of the half. And then when I think about, where history had took this sharp left, took this sharp turn and got everybody in the present day confused, is a specific point in time in history, the Reconstruction period, whereas we're dealing with social engineering. It's like, it's basically as you gotta unlearn. And rest in peace to John Singleton, because that's the specific word that just popped in my mind. Rest in peace to John Singleton, because a higher learning. The end message was to unlearn. We got unlearning to do. So, big ashe to Nipsey Hussle, John Singleton. Big ashe. So we got a lot of unlearning to do for higher learning. You gotta know how to leave what you thought at the door when you learn something new. And what you learning ain't necessarily new, it's new to you because it's levels. But like I said, it might sound a lot of the information that conscious Moors will give you might sound mind-blowing. Like, what kind of conspiracy theories is you on? But all of this information is very basic to us. We take it for granted that you know, but you don't know. And it's like we forget, like, you don't know. You still think you was brought here on the bottom of a slave ship all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. And you don't understand that the European did not have the capabilities to even do that at that time. He was not sailing ships like that. Like, Christopher Columbus, he wasn't no average European. Like, they weren't sailing like that. He was an explorer because he was a half Moor, half original. He was a mulatto. And he had Moorish navigators with him. And the whole narrative of history, people think is very black and white. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of complexities to the history. Okay. See, like, we got this false narrative version because we got these false pictures in our head. And all you gotta do is just act with goddamn common sense. You think niggas was forced on the boat with guns. Like, how we got in this situation is you've totally been lied to. There's children kidnapped and cut off from their language and culture. Boy, I'm trying to keep it as basic as I can, but that's what you have to unlearn. And that's the basics. And that's very appropriate, being that John Singleton has made the transition. Rest in peace to John Singleton. You have higher learning. You have to unlearn first. to learn, get to higher learning. You have to unlearn a lot of the programming that you was indoctrinated with, because I ain't gonna be debating and arguing with people about such basic things. The bottom line is you have to unlearn and realize that North, South, and Central America is a greater extension of Northwest Africa. We got Northwest Africa extended all the way across the great Atlantic Ocean unto North, Central, and South America. There is all of Northwest Africa. But you are under the impression, because of the vast ocean, that these are just separate lands. But the thing is, America is the extension of Northwest Africa. Get that through your greasy head. Get that through your greasy head. This is what makes us indigenous American and not African American. African American was made up. It sounds about proper, but that was made up in the 80s. Africa is a maxim. It's Northwest a maxim. America is Northwest a maxim. A mortal. Very basic.